What kind of journalism will we leave for the next generation? We stand on the shoulders of giants who understood that journalism is not just a profession, it is public trust. To our pioneers of journalism, we say, you did not simply report Ghana's history, you helped to write Ghana's history. This profound story about Ghana. Your legacy reminds us that journalism is the greatest currency. It is not about fame, it is about credibility. Today, however, journalism is changing. We've heard that with unprecedented speed. The newsroom has moved. We've heard that from the typewriter to smartphones. Of course, artificial intelligence is what we're dealing with today. It can generate the stories for all of us within seconds. And of course, social media can make information global in seconds before the journalist even finishes the verification. It's out there. But one thing remains very, very paramount and will never, ever change. That's the truth. It remains sacred. Technology can produce content, but only responsible journalism can produce trust. Ladies and gentlemen, as we embrace artificial intelligence and innovation, we must never surrender verification. We must never surrender ethics. We must never surrender our context. Above all, our humanity. The future will not belong to the loudest person or the loudest newsroom. The future will belong to the most trusted newsroom. It will belong simply to the journalist who publishes first. It will not simply belong to the journalist who publishes first. It will belong to the one who gets it right. The one who defends what he or she publishes. Ladies and gentlemen, to the young journalists here entering our profession, it's very important that we note that we do not only chase virality at the expense of verification. It's very important. A viral falsehood is still falsehood, no matter what. And to all of us gathered here today, truth is under pressure. We all know that. But journalism must continue to remain stronger. Ladies and gentlemen, let's continue to defend press freedom. Let's carry it with courage, integrity, and excellence, and hand it over to the next generation with pride. Why? Because a nation without credibility, a nation without credible journalism is a nation walking in the dark. Ladies and gentlemen, a nation without credible journalism is a nation walking in the dark. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. Welcome all of you once again to the 77th anniversary to celebrate GJA. May the GJA continue to stand for press freedom. May the GJA continue to stand for professionalism. May the GJA continue to stand for ethics. But above all, may the GJA continue to stand for truth, for the truth. For the truth is what will stand for posterity. Thank you all for the opportunity. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, for the opening remarks as we get right into GJA at 77, and there will be panel discussions. You absolutely need to look forward to those, and one of them will be moderated by my professional colleague, Samson Ladi. Samson, it's good to see you. You're trying to hide, but it's difficult to hide. Yeah. I'd also want to acknowledge in this room a very powerful woman, Professor Ekuya Pokuya Bruchum. She's the chairperson of the National Media Commission. Please give it up for her. Thank you very much for joining us, Prof. Also, Kobi Asma, member of the National Media Commission. Where's Kobi? Okay, he's somewhere. Eugene Nkansa is president of the New Media. Yes, we have a group called New Media, and he's president of that. He also runs a blog called Nkonkonsa. Eugene, can you see the look on my face? As I said, Nkonkonsa. And finally, we've been joined by His Excellency Edmund Mukala. He's the UNESCO representative to Ghana. Okay, there he is. At this juncture, it is my privilege to introduce our chairman to you. Most of you know him either by face or by name, but his work precedes him. Professor Amin Hassan is an academic, journalist, and public servant. He's the current and 17th Director General of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. He's worked in the media extensively, radio news at the Ghana News Agency. He joined GBC. He's gone to school. He's very well educated, and no wonder he's a professor. Please help me welcome the man who sits atop the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. And GBC is changing. But one thing we look forward to every year, you know the movie? What's the movie? Home Alone. GBC, please never stop. We look forward to it. Please welcome the Director General of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation and also Chairman of this symposium.
Thank you very much. Yes, Home Alone will always be a defining moment for Christmas, because without Home Alone, there wouldn't be Christmas in Ghana. We are expecting the Honorable Minister here soon. The chairperson of the National Media Commission, the Deputy British High Commissioner, the Director General of the NCA. I have a galaxy of distinguished media personnel, some of whom I worked directly under, and I will acknowledge all of you. And distinguished ladies and gentlemen, fellow journalists, it is an honor to be invited to chair this very important occasion, because to celebrate 77 years of journalism is a remarkable feat that stands out in Africa. Ghana has always been a star when it comes to journalism on the continent. We have a proud legacy of media practice and media education, having established the first institutions to train journalists and others. We have also had a robust media that has helped to transform us from a colony to an independent state. So when we talk about a legacy of media in Ghana, we are talking about a legacy that has played its part in transforming this country more than any other institution. And I always tell my students that it wasn't the military or the police that gave us the independence, it was the journalists, it was journalism. And in journalism, the best one, those who knew how to do the work, also led the country in its political journey into a Republican country. We have a robust national Republican constitution that guarantees freedom and practice of the media, and practitioners are enjoying it. As I also often say that Ghana's media regulatory framework is a gold standard in Africa, and we should be proud of it. So that when we are celebrating media 77 years, we are here to take note of all of that. But what is ahead is actually the challenge, shaping the future of digital media within the context of ethical journalism. And I think that the theme for today, engagement, is most important and most relevant. And I think we should be very much ready to listen to the various panelists that will be coming to listen. My job is simply to sit there and chair. But as we reflect on the future of the digital media, there is something I would like to just refer to. The new media has introduced a lot of challenges for legacy media. We are catching up. We celebrate the digital journalists. They are doing a very fantastic job and well, and increasingly we are working with them into one idea of an association. That's excellent. However, there's also another group that also makes the perception about journalism in the public, not among journalists, in the public, difficult. There's an Italian philosopher, Umberto Eco, he's passed. He made a comment that, and I'll quote, that social media gives legions of idiots the right to speak when they once only spoke at the bar after a glass of wine without harming the community. But now they have the same rights to speak as a Nobel Peace Prize winner. It is the invasion of idiots, unquote. The challenge for us today, practicing journalists, is how do we let the public understand the difference between our work and the practicing idiots. Umberto Eco's practicing idiots, let me qualify it. How do we, and that challenge is with our profession today, not amongst us, but we and the public. Because some of the public commentary about our work is because they are relying on the work of Umberto Eco's idiots. And on that note, I want to say that I accept to share this occasion, today's series of events, and to take us to the end of it. And on that note, thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And once Mr. Chairman has given us the permission to go on, I am happy to welcome on stage the President of the Ghana Journalists Association to inaugurate the statutory committees. But before he comes here, I'd also want to acknowledge our executives, the GJA national executives, of course led by the indefatigable Albert Jimfo, President of the GJA. And you need to clap for your president too. Rebecca Ekpe, who you heard from not long ago. Dominic Kloji is the General Secretary. Suleimana Mustafa is the organizer. Betha Bedueje is the Treasurer. And Zadok JC is the Public Affairs Manager. So let's welcome the President of the Ghana Journalists Association to inaugurate the statutory committee. Very well.
Senior Samuels, I heard what you said. Good afternoon, veteran journalists and colleagues. Mr. Chairman, Director General NCA, UNESCO representative to Ghana, Mr. Mukala, my mom, former GJA President, Honorable Gifty Afeni-Dazi, who has always been our backbone, our pillar, Professor Brichum, Deputy High Commissioner to Ghana, Deputy High Commissioner to Ghana, and all protocols duly observed. Comrade Kwesi Pratt, today is your day. I have the singular honor to invite all nominees for the GJA statutory committees to respectfully come forward so that we will do this in just 3 minutes. We don't want this to take time. So if you are here in a GJA nominee, kindly come forward for the inauguration. The inauguration simply means to give you the authority to be able to discharge your work as per the dictate of the 2004 GJA Constitution. So, as they are coming, I'll be running, come up, please kindly come up. I'll be running you through the list. So we have the membership vetting committee that will be chaired by my own self. And we have the members under this committee are, we have Kisi Yabua, veteran journalist, formerly with the Ghana News Agency. We have Seth Eya, editor-in-chief, Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. We have Peter Nkuma, editor, Daily Dispatch newspaper. We have Nanaya Kunedu, Despite Media. They form the membership vetting committee. Under the Professional Development Committee, and these are all statutory committees, and So under the Professional Development Committee, I have the chairperson, the vice president, Rebecca Eke. Members are Mr. Kofi Yabua, former general secretary, GJA, and a lecturer, Wisconsin International University College. We have Cliff Ekufu, assistant editor, Ghanaian Times, New Times Corporation. We have George Ramsey Benamba, senior editor, Ghana News Agency. We have Kweku Usu Prepara, head of Joy Brands Multimedia Group. And then number 3, we have the Social Affairs Committee. We have the chairperson, Suleiman Mustafa, who is the GJA organizing secretary. The members are Isaac Owusu Asare, Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. Mrs. Linda Santije, former vice president, GJA. Isaac Nyama Yabua, Daily Analyst newspaper. Mami Efua Mensa, editor, United Television, Despite Media Group. And then we have the 4th committee, Standing Committee, International Relations Committee. The chairperson is the organizing, the general secretary, who was the former organizing secretary. So the general secretary, Mr. Dominic Riosi. The members are Mrs. Mary Mensah, foreign editor, Graphic Communications Group. Zambaga Rafiu, freelance journalist, and currently work with the Ministry of Lands as their public affairs head. Ken Saki, Ghana News Agency, GNA, and Yao Obimenu, the publisher, newspaper. And the last, but not the least, is the Finance and Resource Mobilization Committee. And the chairperson is Berta Bedu Ajay, the GJA National Treasurer. The members are Charles Benoni Okain, who is in corporate Ghana, Mrs. Obdi Dekalu, immediate past treasurer of the GJA, Neo Date Lamte, Ghana News, Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, and Michael Okwe, deputy news editor, Graphic Communications Group. So the National Executive of the Ghana Journalists Association, as pursuant to Article 30, 31, and 32 of the Association's 2004 Constitution, reconstituted its statutory committees to support the effective administration, professional development, governance, and strategic growth of the association, and to assist the National Executive in the discharge of its constitutional responsibilities. The reconstituted committees bring together seasoned journalists, media managers, and experienced professionals whose expertise and commitment will contribute significantly to advancing the objective of the association. And as I've mentioned, the National Executive is confident that the wealth of experience, professionalism, and diverse expertise of the committee members will strengthen the work of the association, promote high professional standards, deepen member engagement, and support the implementation of strategic programs for the benefit of journalists nationwide. And the GJA expresses its profound appreciation to all members who have accepted the call to serve on the various committees. Their willingness to dedicate their time, knowledge, and experience to the association is a demonstration of their commitment to the advancement of journalism and the welfare of media practitioners in Ghana. The National Executive looks forward to working closely with the committees in delivering on the association's mandate of promoting professionalism, safeguarding press freedom, enhancing the welfare of journalists and strengthening the GJA as the foremost professional body for journalists in Ghana. And with the power vested in me as the president of the association, so, Mr. Chairman, and all protocols duly observed. As indicated earlier, I have the singular honor to inaugurate this committee. And for that matter, the powers vested in me, the members of this committee, the standing committee, are duly inaugurated. So the dignitaries will join me to just shake them as they take their seat. Yes, just join me, shake them. So,
So you'll be shaking.
So let's start from there.
You see, he's inaugurated himself.
That's the time too.
The 2 minutes is now 5 minutes.
Congratulations. The GBC line is here.
I want some for my.
so we'll take a group picture.
Thank you so much. Accepting.
After that.
You can take over.
We have to find a way to make sure they pronounce your name well. Zambanga, Zambanga is Zambanga.
I've been butchering the name.
Hey. I think I left it. That's it. All right. we can continue with normal programming now. I feel I'm on TV. Anyway, we're going to have more speeches, but I also want to acknowledge some friends of the media here. Akosia V, aka Mrs. A+. Friends of the media, Victoria in Cancer. Friend, and friend of the media. Almost became a media personnel, but well, the rest is history, as they say. So, Victoria, it's good to have you in here. And I also acknowledge the way Samens was running away from the cameras. Samens has always been like that. But Samens, we love you just the way you are. At this juncture, I'd like to welcome a very, very important woman, chairperson of the National Media Commission, a distinguished academic, researcher, and advocate for media freedom, democracy, and social justice. With her wealth of experience and strong commitment to the development of Ghana's media landscape, she brings a respected voice to this important conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to welcome Professor Ekia Opoku-Abrechum. She deserves a bigger round of applause. And it's not because she's a woman, but honestly, it's because she's a woman. So,
thank you so much, MC, for the warm welcome and ensuring that I get enough applause. Prof. Chair, permit me to stand on existing protocols and for brevity, and begin by extending my personal appreciation and that of the National Media Commission for this invitation to be part of the Ghana Journalists Association celebration of its 77th anniversary. For us, it marks effort to ensure that the Commission's continued involvement in all your important activities mark your appreciation of the importance of the institutional context for effective journalism. The National Media Commission would like to join your numerous well-wishers to congratulate you on your 77th anniversary. We commend not only your survival to this age, but also your growth in size, stature, and impact in the national space. We are also struck by your efforts to build stronger structures to meet the demands of the time. And in fact, I highlight just this event that took place before my intervention, because the action reflects a deep appreciation of internal democracy of a representative group as fundamental to its survival. It acknowledges that the challenges of ethical journalism go beyond individual choices and require a strong backing from an effective collective organizations. Because the challenges for upholding journalistic ethics extend beyond holding powerful people accountable. And one such challenge really is the survival of media in a plural system that relies on market-based competition that tends to complicate ethics and integrity. That's the urge to be the first to publish, the financial pressures that create challenges that strain ethical standards like accuracy and thoroughness. Even more so are the precarious working conditions of many journalists, which force them daily to choose between survival and ethical standards. Digital media, just as the Vice President in her address mentioned, has introduced several contentions into the debate on ethical journalism. They include the very foundation of the profession of journalists and also techno-moral virtues, because digital media, unfortunately, is not neutral. Digital media is forcing the profession to redefine itself. And I would like to add to what you said, Prof. Chair. Scott Grant's contentious publications in 2011, that's titled, "We Are All Journalists Now." That journalists include all who have the motivation and tools to publish news for public consumption on any platform. It doesn't matter the level of their integrity and the level of their intellectual capacity. So the definition of journalism is challenged by its embeddedness in traditional media. And this is something that the profession might have to confront. Because we understand the need to circumscribe boundaries. In fact, the existence of your vetting committee attests to this. But social media platforms, as you know, and as will be told us, really, the whole proliferation of influencers, bloggers, endorsers, sponsored content, and the fact that their content decisions are often clouded by the need to remain faithful to followers, focusing more on satisfying immediate pleasures than on informing and providing content. So moral development of individual journalists is also an ethical concern. Some contend that aligning personal commitments with professional responsibilities is not always simple. Others also note that adherence to ethical guidelines is also insufficient to uphold media integrity. The conclusion is that individual journalists' ability to uphold media integrity really depends on a united collective front. They demand that groups like yours allow members to question the very norms of ethics and offer opportunities for self-reflection. What does transparency mean? What does balanced reporting mean? Do we always have the tools to report in a balanced way? There's also debate about online safety for vulnerable people, abuse, harassment, grooming, deepfakes, mis- and disinformation, and all call for the need for appropriate content standards. So, in wishing you a happy birthday, I would like that, and I know there are several speeches and presentations after me, but I would like to stress the fact that, and this is derived from the African Commission on Human and People's Rights resolutions 630 and 631, that we need to shift the whole issue of digital media ethical adherence from individual journalists to governance of platforms that disseminate digital content. And it is important that ethical journalism in the age of digital media, it's clearly a collective responsibility, resting first on digital platforms and the regulatory capacity to ensure that digital platforms assume responsibility for ethical adherence. In conclusion, I urge you to expand your notion of upholding ethical journalism beyond individual virtues and adherence to norms and standards, and to develop the tools to engage the very system that shapes journalist ethics. For profit-driven digital platforms are moving away from news that serves public interest to news that expands public gain. Once again, we at the National Media Commission wish you a successful celebration, congratulate you on your 77th anniversary once again. We hope that the GJA continues to advance journalism in the interest of building a nation where inequality will be a thing of the past. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a bigger round of applause for her. That was a very powerful speech. Thank you very much. And I'm still going to acknowledge some personalities in here. I'll keep doing it because the GJA keeps bombarding me with more names. And as journalists, you know we like to talk. And so I'm not even rejecting them. Any opportunity for you to hear my voice and see my pretty face? Yes. I can be self-centered like that. Forgive me. Anyway, quickly, we want to acknowledge the presence of Gabriel Bosompem, the former member of the NMC. Is Gabriel here? My former boss. Okay, I'm sure he's hiding. He enjoys hiding. Naomi Alabi Esquire, Deputy CEO of the Ghana Tourism Development Authority. Is she here? Oh, there you are. Oh, let's see you. This crowd doesn't like to clap. More like it, more like it. David Tamaklo, Print Pack President. David? Is David here? Oh, there he is. David, thanks for joining us. Oh, I already acknowledged Violet Asari Obeng, aka Akosia V. I already mentioned her. So I'll move on to the next. Well, it's not a sheet. The next card. Asari Yamwa, Board Chairman of Copy Ghana. Oh, there he is. Thank you very much for joining us. Joseph Bafo Jemfi, Executive Director of Copy Ghana. Okay, thank you very much for joining us. Ellen, if I butcher your name, please pardon me, because the Vice President of GJA's handwriting, it is some way, as they say. Madam Ellen Ahwagbedo. Okay, Ahwagbedo. The Dean of the Veteran Journalists Association. Hey, Dean, I want me butcher the Dean side. Anyway. And then finally, Madam Ruth Ajololo, AKA, I can't hear you, AKA, yeah, she's that popular. She's a veteran journalist. We're happy to have you here with us today. And we're going to move on with some more speeches, because it's going to be a day of speeches, powerful speeches, and hopefully we leave this room with a lot of lessons, things to do after 77 years. We're hoping for more impact. And so at this juncture, I'd like to welcome His Excellency Edmund Mukala. He's the UNESCO representative to Ghana, a distinguished diplomat and development advocate with extensive experience advancing education, culture, science, communication, and sustainable development. He's already here. Please welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
I was trying to save time. Good afternoon. Standing on the existing protocols, but please allow me to once again greet our chairperson. You know, as I was seeing you speaking again today, I've been wondering how long are we going to take to inscribe GBC as a World Heritage Site? Because this is you and I think we owe that. Before I leave and before you leave, we all agree, you know, African independence movement, as rightly put it, started with all the broadcasting for most of the African countries, and it was through GBC that many countries, including mine in Congo and many others, have been able really to enjoy the freedom and independence. And I think GBC is a legacy of African liberation movements, and it deserves really to make it. And they have been doing a very good work. You know, the building, the premises as a heritage is still in very good shape. I've visited it. And our younger generation around the world need to know and know that that building, I didn't even know that until I visited. Then I know that's where the sound that we used to hear in the radio was coming from. And I think, give again a big round of applause. And so let's make it really a World Heritage Site, because people have to understand the history of Africa. So Chairperson, again, thank you. It's an honor to be here. Our most powerful president, I think, is out of our GJA. And our veteran journalists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I think my friends that are here, but please, I will stand on the existing protocol. So I'm deeply honored to stand with you today as we gather to mark the 77 years of the Ghana Association. A milestone of this magnitude is not merely a celebration of longevity. It is a profound invitation to pause, reflect, and chart a deliberate course ahead. The theme chosen for this anniversary, Building on Our Legacy, Advancing Ethical Journalism and Shaping the Future of Digital Media, perfectly encapsulates the dual responsibility we face to honor the foundation of the past while courageously engineering the tools for a digital future. With the benefit of history, we appreciate that long before Ghana became the first sub-Saharan African country to gain independence, journalists were already shaping the public consciousness. They were the architects of a new narrative, giving voice to the aspiration of a people yearning for self-determination. The founding fathers of the Ghana's press understood a fundamental truth that remains valid today. A free and independent press is not a luxury afforded by democracy. It is the very necessity upon which nation building is predicated. Today, Ghana is celebrated as one of Africa's most stable democracies. The fingerprints of the media are visible on nearly every democratic milestone we have achieved. From monitoring elections and providing credibility to results, to exposing corruption in high or low places, journalists have held the mirror up to society. You have provided a platform for the ordinary citizen to be heard by those in power, and ensuring that accountability is not just a concept, but a lived reality. However, as we celebrate this rich legacy, we must also embrace an honest introspection. The credibility that Ghanaian journalists has built over seven decades is not a permanent inheritance. It is a daily obligation. We live in an era where the ethical foundation of the profession are being tested by the twin pressure of sensation and speed. In the rush to publish first, as my predecessor indicated, and the mandate to publish right is often sidelined. In this landscape of misinformation and disinformation, advancing ethical journalism must remain more than a slogan. It is our survival strategy. Once the public's trust is lost, it is exceedingly difficult to win it back. Let this 77th anniversary serve as a renewal of our collective resolve to guard that trust with jealousy and professional integrity. We meet at a moment when the very architecture of how information is produced and consumed is being radically reshaped. UNESCO, as a United Nations agency, mandate to promote the free flow of ideas and recognizes that both the immense promise and the significant peril of this digital transformation. So while digital platforms have democratized access, UNESCO recent World Trends report on press freedom highlighted a sobering decline in global press freedom and an increase in economic fragility for media houses. The rise of artificial intelligence is no longer a future concern. It is a present reality affecting information integrity. In response, UNESCO vision for the future of digital media is anchored on 4 clear pillars. The first one is safeguarding freedom of expression, ensuring that governance of digital platform through guidelines that hold both status and tech giants accountable. The second one is to ensure that economic viability, advocating that fair compensation for news content used by online platforms and AI systems to ensure that journalists remain a sustainable career. The third is strengthening media literacy, empowering citizens to become discerning consumers and gatekeepers of truth in an age of algorithm bias. Fourth, building technological capacity, equipping journalists and educators to navigate AI responsibly and ensuring that technology serves the public interest. So if we take this vision seriously, the challenge before the Ghana Journalists Association is clear. We must invest in digital skills and newsroom innovations. We must advocate for policies that protect the economic sustainability of our media houses. And we must lead public conversation on responsible use of AI. The future of digital media in Ghana will not simply happen to us. It must be shaped by us. So I extend once again, my heartfelt commendation to the leadership and membership of the GJA for sustaining this noble institution for 77 years, remarkable years. To the past and present presidents, executive members, and the countless journalists in the field, especially those who have nurtured beyond the border of this country, we salute the dedication. I also commend the National Media Commission, media proprietors, and civil society partners who continue to invest in the soul of this cherished democracy. As we move forward, carry with you the courage of your predecessors and boldly embrace the digital future. The world is watching. UNESCO stand with you on this journey. We thank you again for your attention. Medase.
Thank you very much. I will go for some more solidarity messages, but I also want to acknowledge, well, I won't call her a former colleague. Once a colleague, always a colleague, no matter where her office is now. Please say hello to Shamima Muslim. Shamima is a broadcast journalist. I won't even say former because forever a broadcast journalist. She's a development communication specialist as well. And my favorite part, a gender advocate. And she's currently the deputy presidential spokesperson. She will be delivering a speech very soon on behalf. Okay, thank you for emphasizing. Just so we know you're not taking his job. She said, on behalf of my boss, yes, Felix Kwachefusu couldn't join us this afternoon. But before we go to that speech and also hear from the NCA boss, I'd like to invite on stage two gentlemen. Of course, we know how powerful our media is. And our media is powerful because so many people have made it possible. And every time we receive a glowing tribute, we are always reminded of the work we are doing and how best we can do. Please welcome His Excellency Chris Halliday. He's the Deputy British High Commissioner. Welcome to Ghana, by the way. And he will be speaking on behalf of the diplomatic corps. And after that, we'll also hear from the press attaché from the US Embassy. There you go.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Prof. Chair. If I may observe all previous protocols. I will be brief, not least because I'm 3 weeks into this job. And I also wasn't aware that I'd be speaking today. But please bear with me and thank you for having me on this auspicious occasion. And I would like to begin by just congratulating all of you on the 77th anniversary of the Ghana Journalists Association. Around this time, 77 years ago, a group of Ghanaian journalists got together on the Gold Coast, as it then was, still under colonial rule, because they knew that the nation's future depended on access to information and ideas. And so here we are 77 years later, building on the legacy of your founding fathers. And Ghana really should be proud of the trajectory that you have been on. Not only is Ghana one of Africa's strongest democracies in the context that the previous speaker was talking about in terms of threats to media freedom worldwide, Ghana has risen 13 places over the last year in the Global Press Index, which I think deserves a round of applause. And the role of journalists in this is absolutely vital. So I pay tribute to all of you for the role in which you're playing, because we need not just a free media, but also a future-proof media. The challenges that journalists face in 2040 are not the same as they face today, or they faced in the year 2000, or they faced in 1949. And so journalistic, but manipulation. And whilst we all face threats from those who wish to sow doubt about what truth is. And as one of the previous speakers said, trust is a strategic asset. And in the future, it's the media organizations not who necessarily publish first that will lead, but those who have the most trust. And the journalists operating today, they're at the front line of information security. They're at the front line of preserving that trust, preserving that national infrastructure. And the UK is proud to be supporting Ghana and Ghana's journalists on this journey. We are a founding member of the Global Media Freedom Coalition, and we're proud to be working here locally in Ghana with our partners in the diplomatic community, with government, with civil society, and with the media to provide a platform to discuss issues affecting media freedom and integrity. And I think that this goes to the theme of this symposium today of advancing ethical journalism, which is arguably harder today than ever has been, given we live in an era of rapid change, artificial intelligence, and misinformation. And the UK, together with all our partners, remains committed to working with Ghana and supporting the development of a free and independent media. I hope it's true to say that ethical journalism is not an end in itself, but in fact is the foundation for future strong, resilient and democratic societies. So congratulations again, and thank you.
I think journalists don't know how to clap. I have come to the conclusion that journalists don't like to clap. Why? I want to understand. You're not trained to clap. Hey, who is trained to clap? Clap for yourselves. Aha! You enjoy clapping for yourselves, but not for other people. Anyway, I'm also happy to acknowledge, of course, the Director General of the NCA is here with us. He'll be speaking in a tad, but unfortunately, we had to say goodbye to the gentleman from the US Embassy because he had another assignment. But of course, we know that they are definitely in solidarity with us. At this juncture, I'd like to introduce the Director General of the National Communications Authority. He's an accomplished telecommunications engineer, public sector leader, and extensive experience in Ghana's communications and technology ecosystem. Under his leadership, the NCA continues to play a critical role in regulating Ghana's electronic communication space, promoting innovation, protecting consumers, and ensuring a secure and reliable digital environment. Well, he's in a hurry to speak. Please welcome Reverend Engineer Edmund Urenchi Fianco, Director General of the National Communications Authority.
Thank you. We didn't start on time, so Professor Chairman and Honorable Deputy Presidential Spokesperson, I would plead to stand on all existing protocols. Good afternoon. Yeah, I'm grateful to the GJA for the invitation to join you at this important symposium marking the association's 77th anniversary. 77 years is a remarkable institutional journey. It represents more than longevity. It speaks to resilience, service, and the enduring importance of journalism to Ghana's democratic and national development. I congratulate the President executives, and entire membership of the association, past and present, on this significant milestone. Congratulations. The theme for this symposium, Building on our Legacy, Advancing Ethical Journalism, and Shaping the Future of Digital Media, brings together three ideas that must remain inseparable: our history, our values, and our future. The platforms through which journalism is produced and consumed may change, but its fundamental public purpose does not. Journalism must continue to provide citizens with reliable information, subject power to scrutiny, give voice to different sections of society, and create a credible record of our national life. Today, however, journalism operates in a communications environment transformed by digital technology. News no longer waits for tomorrow's newspaper or the next bulletin. A story can be recorded on a mobile phone, transmitted over a broadband network, published on a digital platform, and seen across the world within minutes. This transformation has expanded access and participation. It has enabled journalists to reach wider audiences and engage citizens more directly. It has opened the media space to voices previously excluded from national conversations. And I'm afraid to use the characterization that the chairperson used. But the same technologies have created serious challenges. Speed increasingly competes with accuracy. Anyone with a connected device can publish information, whether verified or not. Artificial intelligence can generate convincing text, audio, images, and video. False information can travel further and faster than its correction. Algorithms may reward outrage more readily than balance and careful investigation. In such an environment, ethical journalism is not becoming less relevant, it is becoming more valuable. The professional journalist must offer something the unverified social media post cannot: accuracy, context, fairness, accountability, and a disciplined process of verification. Technology may determine how quickly a story reaches the public, but ethics determines whether that story deserves the public's confidence. When news breaks, the discerning public must feel the compulsion to check the page of an established media house before sharing it. As journalists embrace artificial intelligence and other emerging tools, those tools should support, not replace, professional judgment. AI may assist with transcription, translation, research, and data analysis. It must not become a license to publish fabricated quotations, manipulated images, or unverified claims. Newsrooms will need clear policies on the responsible use of AI. Where content has been materially generated or altered by AI, that fact should be clearly disclosed, and human editorial responsibility must remain clear. Because when technology makes a mistake, the public cannot hold an algorithm accountable. It must be able to hold a person or an institution accountable. We must also strengthen media and digital literacy among the public. Citizens need the ability to distinguish journalism from commentary, satire, advertising, propaganda, and deliberate disinformation. This responsibility belongs not only to journalists, but to educators, public institutions, civil society, technology companies, and regulators like myself. The GJA has itself shown leadership in this space, and this continued voice will be essential in setting the standards by which the profession polices itself. The National Communications Authority occupies an important but carefully defined place within this changing environment. Our responsibility is to help create and maintain the electronic communications ecosystem through which digital media operates, managing spectrum, authorizing communication services, promoting quality connectivity, and protecting consumers. Without dependable connectivity, the promise of digital media will remain unevenly distributed. A journalist in a rural community must be able to gather and transmit a story as effectively as a journalist in Accra.
Closing the digital divide is therefore not only an economic or technological objective, it is essential to inclusion, civic participation, and democratic life. We are conscious of not recent, but maybe long-standing public complaints about drop calls, slow data, and inadequate coverage in some communities. The NCA is working with the mobile operators. We have identified underlying causes, and we have directed the implementation of remedial measures, including expanding capacity at existing sites and constructing new ones. More than 500 new sites are currently being built this year, while several existing sites are being upgraded. The authority will continue to monitor implementation and hold operators accountable for completing the required improvements. At the same time, the NCA recognizes the constitutional importance of media freedom and freedom of expression. Regulation of electronic communications infrastructure must not be confused with the editorial regulation of journalism, which is the NMC's domain. Our interventions must remain grounded in law, transparent in purpose, and respectful of the distinct roles of the institutions within Ghana's democratic framework. We often get called upon to do things we are not allowed to do by law. The digital future we seek must also be safe. Newsrooms hold sensitive information, unpublished investigations, confidential sources, personal data. A compromised newsroom can endanger not only an institution, but the people who place their trust in it. So digital security should now be treated as part of professional journalistic practice. Pay attention to cybersecurity. We must also confront the economic challenge facing journalism. Digital platforms have broadened access to news, but disrupted the revenue models that sustain professional reporting, as the NMC chair mentioned. If credible journalism is to survive, we must find sustainable models that reward original reporting and public interest content, and the pressure to license more stations. This will require innovation by media organizations and responsible conduct by digital platforms. It will also require an informed national conversation about the economic future of Ghanaian journalism. Ladies and gentlemen, Ghana does not have to choose between innovation and ethics, between the speed of digital media and the discipline of professional journalism. We can embrace technological change while preserving the values that give journalism its public worth. As the GJA marks 77 years, my appeal is simple. Let trust remain the profession's most valuable currency. Platforms will change, devices will change, business models will change, but the public's need for information that is accurate, fair, and responsibly presented will remain. The NCA stands ready to work with the Ghana Journalists Association. Its present chairman has been a long time friend. We've been in the trenches together. I congratulate all of you. We'll continue to work together to promote a communications environment that is accessible, resilient, and supportive of Ghana's democratic development. Congratulations once again on your 77th anniversary. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.
And yes, we are 77. That is a super, super big deal. Thank you very much for that powerful speech and a reminder of our responsibilities to the nation and the people who tune in every day to listen to us. Just a reminder that we have two powerful panel discussions coming up as well. One on advancing ethical journalism, media credibility, and public trust in a changing digital media ecosystem. Another one on the legacy of the GJA, emerging technologies and artificial intelligence. That's very, very important. At this particular juncture, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to introduce one of the most visible and influential media leaders in Ghana, a journalist whose voice and leadership have become synonymous with the GJA. As president of the GJA, he's brought increased visibility, energy, and advocacy to the association, championing media freedom, the safety of journalists, and the advancement of the profession. A respected media personality and passionate defender of journalism, please welcome President of the GJA, And at this point, I want to say President Albert Kwabena Jumfo. Hey, is that how you welcome the president? Thank you very much. Please welcome Albert. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anna. I appreciate it. Prof. Chairman, kindly permit me to stand on the already established protocols. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, 77 years represent decades of service, sacrifice, advocacy, and commitment to journalism and to the democratic development of our country. The team, GJA at 77, building on our legacy, advancing ethical journalism, and shaping the future of digital media, is both a celebration and a call to action. It invites us to look back with pride, examine the present with honesty, and look into the future with courage and determination. At this important milestone, I wish to pay tribute to the past and present executives of the Ghana Journalists Association. Each generation of leadership has contributed in its own way to the growth, resilience, and relevance of this association. We particularly acknowledge our predecessors who often under difficult circumstances laid the foundation upon which the GJA stands today. They gave their time, energy, and expertise to build an institution capable of speaking for journalists, defending press freedom, and promoting professional standards. And permit me to single out one person whose effort and toil today GJA is enjoying, and that is our own mother, Honorable Gifty Afeni-Dazi. Through her effort, GJA is now sheltered at the heart of Accra, and we give her that credit. That responsibility to our former president, vice president, general secretaries, treasurers, vice presidents, organizing secretaries, and other executive members, we say thank you. Your work created the institutional foundation that has enabled successive administrations to continue the GJA's mandate. That responsibility also shapes how the association must serve its members. A journalist should be able to look to the GJA for professional development, guidance when new challenges emerge, and support when the legitimate work of journalism is threatened. But that relationship must work both ways. The association cannot defend the credibility of journalism if journalists themselves are unwilling to uphold the standards that make that credibility possible. As we mark this anniversary, I am reminded that those of us entrusted with the leadership of the GJA are custodians, not owners of this institution. We inherited an association built through sacrifice, advocacy, and professional commitment, and our duty is to strengthen it and hand it over in better shape to the next generation. The GJA as a custodian of trust. We also acknowledge the current executive of the association and the committed regional and national structures working every day to advance the interests of journalists. We are conscious that we are custodians, not owners, of these institutions. Our duty is to strengthen what we inherited and leave an even stronger association for those who will come after us. Prof. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, for 77 years, the Ghana Journalists Association has been an important voice in the development of Ghana's media landscape. The association has consistently advocated for an environment in which journalists can work without fear, intimidation, or undue interference. The GJA has defended the fundamental principles that a free press is essential to democracy and accountable governance. It has worked with successive governments, state institutions, civil organizations, development partners, and media organizations to strengthen journalism and promote professional standards. We have organized training programs, workshops, conferences, and stakeholder engagement to improve the capacity of journalists across the country. We have spoken against attacks on media practitioners and engaged relevant authorities whenever the safety and freedom of journalists have been threatened. And that has reflected in our current position on the World Press Freedom Index. Our annual GJA Media Awards have also become one of the most important platforms for recognizing excellence in Ghanaian journalism. Through the awards, we celebrate journalists whose work demonstrates professionalism, courage, innovation, and commitment to the public interest. Prof. Chairman, press freedom remains at the heart of the GJA's mandate. Journalists must be free to investigate, question, scrutinize, and report matters of public interest. At the same time, freedom must be accompanied by responsibility. So we have been preaching, as we defend press freedom, we've been preaching for media responsibility. The credibility of the media depends on accuracy, fairness, balance, independence, accountability, and respect for the dignity and rights of others. The GJA will therefore continue to promote ethical journalism while defending the rights of journalists. The media environment has become increasingly challenging, with political polarization, misinformation, disinformation, economic pressures, threats to media sustainability, and attacks on journalists, including on digital platforms. Our response must be stronger professional standards, better journalism, and a renewed commitment to public interest reporting. Technology and journalism. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, technology has transformed the way information is gathered, produced, distributed, and consumed. Social media, mobile journalism, data journalism, and artificial intelligence are changing newsroom practices and the relationship between journalists and audiences. AI presents enormous opportunities. It can assist with research, transcription, translation, data analysis, monitoring, and other newsroom tasks. But it also presents serious challenges, including misinformation, fabricated content, deepfakes, and synthetic audio and images. The GJA's position is clear. Technology must serve journalism. It must not destroy the values that make journalism worthy of public trust. We will therefore continue to promote training and capacity building in digital journalism, verification, fact-checking, data journalism, and responsible use of AI. And as technology advances, the human journalist remains central. Journalism still requires curiosity, judgment, courage, and conscience. It requires someone to ask the additional question, check the document, call the other side, and recognize when something does not add up. Those are professional responsibilities that technology can assist but cannot assume. There's also a practical side to this transformation that we must not overlook. Digital journalism is not only about learning how to publish on new media, on new platforms, it is also about understanding the economy of those platforms, the changing relationship with audiences, and the sustainability of the media organizations that employ journalists. If we do not understand the digital ecosystem, others will increasingly determine the future of our profession for us. We will encourage media organizations to develop clear editorial policies on AI, including transparency, verification, human oversight, protection of confidential resources, and respect for copyright and intellectual property. The journalists of the future must understand emerging technologies while retaining the human judgment and ethical responsibility that machines cannot replace. Prophet Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, at 77, the GJA does not stand alone. We acknowledge with deep gratitude the many governmental and non-governmental institutions, development partners, diplomatic missions, corporate organizations, civil society groups, media houses, and individuals who have supported the association over the years. We therefore want to commend all of them for their awesome support, especially in recent years. We have enjoyed much support from the KGA group, and I want to commend them for that wonderful and enormous support to the association. Let's give them a round of applause. Yes, your support has enabled the GJA to organize training programs, advocacy initiatives, safety interventions, professional development activities, awards, and other programs that have advanced the cause of journalism. We particularly appreciate our engagement with government institutions and independent statutory bodies whose cooperation has helped advance conversations on press freedom, journalist safety, access to information, and professional standards. We must also confront the welfare question honestly. We cannot demand excellent journalism from professionals working under persistent insecurity, nor can we expect the profession to attract and retain the best young minds if journalism is regarded as a career without dignity or security. Media owners and managers have a responsibility here, but so do we as an association. A strong democracy requires a media industry that is not only free, but also professionally sustainable. We also thank our international partners, including UNESCO, the US Embassy, the British High Commission, and other development organizations for their continued collaboration and support. To our corporate partners, we say thank you once again for recognizing that a strong and credible media is essential to a strong and prosperous Ghana. We urge all the partners to continue working with the GJA as we enter the next chapter of our journey. 30th GJA Media Awards. I am particularly delighted to announce that next week, the Ghana Journalists Association will officially open entries for the 30th GJA Media Awards. This will be a special edition because it marks the 30th edition of the Ghana Journalists Association Media Awards. I urge all members of the association who are in good standing, and the emphasis is who are in good standing, to begin preparing their best stories and productions for submission and consideration for honors. Members who are not currently in good standing should do the needful to regularize their membership status so that they are eligible to submit their work. There's also an important change this year. Entries for the 30th GJA Media Awards will be received through the association's new website, which will be launched very soon. This forms part of our broader digital transformation agenda, and it's intended to make the award process more accessible, efficient, and transparent. Sometimes courage in journalism is not being the first to publish. It is having the discipline to wait, verify, and publish only when you are certain of the fact. That is the standard to which we must hold ourselves. As we prepare for the next chapter, I want to leave my colleagues with a simple thought. Do not measure your success only by how many people see your story, how many people who see your story. Measure it by whether the story is true. Do not measure your influence only by the number of followers you have. Measure it by whether people can trust you. And do not measure your journalism only by how quickly you publish. Measure it by how carefully you verify. A word to corporate Ghana. We are also calling on corporate Ghana to come on board and partner with the association for this historic edition. The 30th GJA Media Awards will celebrate 3 decades of journalism or journalistic excellence and provide an opportunity for corporate Ghana to demonstrate its commitment to a credible, professional, and sustainable media industry. The road ahead, as we look Towards the next chapter, the GJA will continue to build on lit legacy while responding to the realities of the modern media environment. But the future of journalism cannot be built by the GJA alone. It requires media owners who invest in their journalists who invest in their professional development, government institutions that respect the role of the media, businesses that support credible journalism, and citizens who recognize the value of reliable information. The answer will depend on the choices we make. Today, our responsibility is therefore not merely to manage the GJA of the present, but to prepare the institution for the future. At 77, therefore, our message is simple. The GJA is not retiring. We are renewing. We are renewing our commitment to press freedom, ethical journalism, journalist safety, innovation, and the development of Ghana. In conclusion, journalism has never been merely about reporting what happened. At its best, journalism helps society understand what happened, why it happened, and what it means for the future. That is the responsibility we have inherited. That is the responsibility we have discharged. And that is the responsibility we must pass on to the next generation of journalists. As we celebrate GJA at 77, let us honor those who built this association, support those who carrying its mandate today, and prepare the institution for the challenges and opportunities of tomorrow. May the Ghana Journalists Association continue to be a defender of press freedom, a champion of ethical journalism, and a trusted partner in Ghana's democratic and national development. Long live the Ghana Journalists Association. Long live Ghanaian journalism. Long live the Republic of Ghana. Thank you, and God bless you.
And to add to the GJA president's voice, may the poor salaries short-live. I'm not hearing amen. Or you like your salaries as they are? I also want to acknowledge the support we're getting from Ghana Television, GTV, Joy News, Atenka TV, because we are live on these channels and other channels as well. We are getting to, well, every speech has been very important, but this is really, really important too. We're going to listen to a distinguished media practitioner and public communicator. She has extensive experience in journalism, communications, and public affairs. I know Shamima would cringe. Every time you give her fans, she cringe. Anyway, Shamima, sit tight. No, I'll call you. Just sit down, sit down. Just sit down, sit down. Every time I hear her speak, no, Shamima, sit. Don't come yet. Hold on. And she tells young women, be proud of your achievements. So Shamima, from me to you, heart to heart, be proud that you bring a strong understanding of Ghana's media landscape and your role as an effective communicator in public service. She's a respected journalist, media practitioner, and women's rights advocate known for her strong voice on issues of governance, gender equality, social justice, and public accountability. Please welcome. She wants me to stop, so I'll stop. I was going to go on and on and on. Welcome, Shamima Muslim. She's Deputy Presidential Spokesperson and acting as a special guest of honor in her boss's stead. You wanted me to add that, I have.
Yes. Very well. Good afternoon. Today is a day of, in fact, this week, and I really don't know how President Mahama does it, because this week has been one event after the other, one speech after the other, and I'm exhausted already. And yet, President John Dramani Mahama, in his age, does not sit at one place. So please, I came from one to another one. Bear with me if I stumble at any point. But good afternoon to all of you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Please turn to your neighbor and say hello in your mother tongue. Hello in your mother tongue. How many of you don't know how to say hello in your local dialect? Confess. So please, from here, go and find out how to say hello in, or its equivalent in your local dialect. Thank you very much, Nana, Abba, my dearest beautiful, brilliant sister. As Nanaba said, I'm here to represent the Minister, Government Communications, and MP, the Honorable Felix Kwachi Ofosu. He would have loved to be here, but yesterday, today, Government Accountability Series and Gold Board, losses or no losses, I mean, you know the whole thing. So I'm here to represent him, share a few reflections with us. Permit me also then to stand on all existing protocols. There is a historic alliance between politics and journalism. Sometimes this alliance is holy, sometimes it is unholy. We know each other intimately well, politics and journalism, warts and all. We understand each other's performance arts when we are merely performing, and we understand when it is time for real business. Moments where we each rise to the occasion because our very survival as a nation depends on it. Whenever we have been able to suppress our individualistic tendencies, our collaboration almost always pushes forward the frontiers of our democracy. These moments and the insights we gather from such collaborations have been the anchor to Ghana's stability and its glowing status within the Committee of Nations. I want to reflect with you on the journey between our two selves. Ghana's democratic journey offers very clear examples of what becomes possible when politics and journalism work in the national interest. In fact, I noticed that we are celebrating GJA at 77. And I whispered to Professor Amin Al-Hassan that, oh, GJA is actually older than Ghana's Independence Day. Did you notice? Because next year, Ghana turns 70. Before Ghana there was a GJA. And because there was a GJA, our independence struggle and fight was giving the necessary impetus that it required to grant us independence now, which will even come 7 years later. So, after Ghana's independence, one of our beautiful experiences together is the collaboration that returned Ghana to constitutional rule in 1992. The media's role in voter education and public debates in holding state actors accountable was central to the return to multi-party democracy and the 1992 Constitution. That foundation has sustained 8 successive peaceful elections. Let's talk about our collaboration that delivered the passage of the Right to Information Act. Over 2 decades of sustained advocacy by the Ghana Journalists Association, by the Media Foundation for West Africa, various media houses, CSOs, and willing political class will ultimately culminate in the passage of the Right to Information law, which gives pressure upon duty bearers to know that eyes are watching and they owe accountability to the people. The industry of peace journalism, it wasn't always part of our lingua. This holy collaboration has led to deepening knowledge and awareness about what the power of media can do to sustain peaceful countries or to push countries into wars and strife. that collaboration remains. The ability to deflect sensitive matters, be they religious, be they ethnic chieftaincy, has been a deep and positive alliance from this union. Let's talk about pandemics and public education campaigns that the government alone couldn't have afforded if journalism and media houses never came on board. National coordinated media responses have always provided timely, accurate information that saved lives and built public trust in institutions, especially during pandemics. To the subjects we all love, defending press freedom and safety of journalists. It is in here that sometimes our unholy alliance rears its ugly head. But even then, we can pat ourselves on the back. In comparison with other nations, Ghana has done beautifully well, and we can give ourselves a round of applause for that. It is the continuous vigilance of the media and the continuous sensitivity of politics and governments of the day that continues to pull us back from the brink where and when it matters. Closely linked to the issue of right to information is our national anti-corruption and accountability campaigns. Again, joint investigations by press houses, Parliament's own the Public Accounts Committee, the Commission of Human Rights and Administrative Justice, the Office of the OSP, have all contributed in exposing major scandals that shook the foundations of our democracy and that put the fear of the Lord in those who wield power and control the public purse, to wake up to the reality that they can't go unpunished when they breach the public accountability and the public trust reposed in them. As a growing democracy, we have also seen ways in which our Holy Alliance has seen us journey through various constitutional review processes and national dialogue processes. The media's partnership with the Constitution Review Commission, even in 2010, and most recently, are indications that we have more in common than that which divide us. And this continued partnership has led to a more voter-aware populace through the public education around voter registration and elections education. It has deepened transparency also in our elections processes, from our ballot papers to our ballot boxes and all the things that we do to ensure we protect the choice and the will of the people. This couldn't have happened without the Holy Alliance playing out between us and you. And for this, we remain grateful as a government, and we encourage you to continue. Linked also to the issue of pandemics is the general national health campaigns, which we have relied heavily on the media to ensure that the people believe and hear and understand and change behaviors, because behavioral change with regards to health issues require constant information, constant engagement, and the media has truly helped us in this regard. From our historic collaboration to end polio eradication in Ghana, to HIV awareness, which reduced stigmatization amongst the populace, to maternal health issues, which recognized the challenges women went through when they were pregnant, to the issue of COVID-19, which still is around, but because of the deepened education we gave to the populace, people know how to deal with it when it comes again. The joint briefings we hold between the Ministry of Health and journalists have also helped to counter various myths and improve compliance when we educate. On a matter that touches all of us, gender and social protection laws, without our holy alliance, media advocacy alongside Parliament, the Ministry of Gender wouldn't have led to the publication, to the passage of the Domestic Violence Act, the Human Trafficking Act, the Affirmative Action Act, which we are hoping that you will continue to collaborate with us to continue to educate the public why it is important to have equity within our community and our nation. And we are most grateful for that. These are few examples of how we have worked together as key partners in the sustenance of our country's democracy. And as we move on into the next chapters of the GJA, after marking its 77th anniversary today, I would like to end with a few reflection points that from everything that has happened to us, between us and for us, we all agree that our partnership has taught us that media freedom is a pillar of democratic governance, that ethical journalism must be the anchor in an age of information disorder, that information integrity is now a democratic and national imperative. I'll give a personal example. Having been a subject to a fake news publication, and I'm sure many of us in this room have experienced same. I get a very insistent call some time back, and it's a friend of mine who shares a quote card about something I never uttered, which I am supposed to have said, which he found in an academic platform of researchers, of lecturers, and a whole conversation about why has she lost her integrity on a fake quote card by those that have at least the minimum skills to do the least, which is verification, before the judgments, before the insults, before the further sharing. So if I had no representative or friend who knows who I am and knows that these words cannot come out from this woman, who showed them to me for me to respond and then share to him what was actually shared for him to post on that page, an international page from, made up of intellectuals. This is how insidious the threats we all face with this period of fake news is. We all will, at some point in time, become victims of the spread of fake stories. And so we have a duty unto ourselves, unto our nation, for us to protect information integrity and to see it now more than ever as a democratic and national imperative. We agree also that the future of journalism must embrace technology without surrendering human judgment. And that judgment must be sound, and it must be based on facts. It must be based on fairness. It must be based on equity. GJA at 77 must therefore be more about the legacy we leave, not only the legacy that we are celebrating today. 77 years should both be a celebration and a moment of national reflection. The defining question is no longer only what previous generations of journalists have achieved, but what kind of media ecosystem we will leave to the next generation. The future Ghana needs is journalism that is free in the truest sense, in its voice, that can be relied upon, that can be believed and trusted, that is fearless in its scrutiny, ethical in its conduct, innovative in its methods, and unwavering in its service to the truth and the public interest, and an overwhelming recognition that we at this side are in it with you. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
A very big thank you to Shamima. And we are moving on. We have two very powerful panel discussions coming up, and I hope you all make time to listen attentively to those panel discussions. Next is one of Ghana's most respected journalists and public intellectuals, and a formidable voice in the country's media and political discourse. As managing editor of the Insight newspaper, he's built a reputation over decades for fearless journalism, sharp analysis, and passionate advocacy on issues of national development, democracy, and social justice. Won't you clap? Massa. Massa. Please welcome Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr., Managing Editor of the Insight newspaper.
The chairperson, President of the Ghana Journalists Association, the chairperson of the National Media Commission, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. First, let me salute the Ghana Journalists Association on its 77th anniversary and to thank the organizers of this event for the opportunity offered me to discuss the significance of this anniversary and the practice of journalism in Ghana today and in the future. The Ghana Journalists Association was founded on the 15th of August, 1949, at a time when the Gold Coast was in the midst of a profound political transformation. The organization began as the Africa Press Association, offering an indigenous alternative to the colonial press. Among the nationalist leaders of that period were journalists, including Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who understood the power of the press in shaping political consciousness. The association itself subsequently passed through several identities before becoming the Ghana Journalists Association that we know today. History matters. And it reminds us that journalism in Ghana did not begin as a profession concerned only with reporting what happened yesterday. It developed within a society struggling over who had the right to speak, whose interests should define the future, and who should control the narrative of the country. The press was therefore never merely an observer of Ghana's history. It was part of that history. And that is what makes the anniversary worth marking as more than an ordinary event. A legacy is not something we inherit merely to admire. It is something we inherit to extend. Extending that legacy requires us to ask whether the journalism of today is still adequately serving the democratic, social, and national purposes that gave journalism its importance in the first place. Ghana has traveled a considerable distance since 1949, from colonial rule through independence, imperialist interventions, and the embrace of neoliberalism. From a press dominated by newspapers to a media environment of radio, television, online platforms, social media, and increasingly artificial intelligence. The legal environment has also changed profoundly. Ghana's 1992 constitution guarantees the freedom and independence of the media, prohibits censorship subject to constitutional limitations, protects private media from impediments to establishment, and declares that editors, publishers should not be subjected to governmental control or interference. It also explicitly assigns the media a responsibility to uphold the accountability of government to the people. The last point is particularly important. The Constitution does not speak only of the freedom of the media, it speaks of the responsibility of the media as well. That distinction should be at the heart of our conversation, because press freedom without responsibility can become reckless, and responsibility without freedom can become submission. We need both freedom of the media and the responsibility of the media. Ghana has earned recognition for the progress it has made in media freedom and freedom of expression. UNESCO's assessment of media development in Ghana describes a vibrant and relatively free media environment and notes that the country's progress in freedom of expression and access to information since 1992. At the same time, the assessment identifies serious concerns, including growing insecurity among journalists, increasing media concentration, and commercial pressures that may threaten media freedom and pluralism. This is the contradiction we must confront. We have more media outlets, more media platforms, more voices, more information, and more ways to publish. And yet, more information does not automatically produce more public knowledge. The digital revolution has created an extraordinary abundance of information, but that abundance carries its own problems. When everybody can publish, who verifies? When everybody can comment, who investigates? When everybody can circulate a claim, who establishes whether it is true or not? The central problem of journalism is therefore no longer simply access to information, but the organization of truth in a society overwhelmed by information. This is where the crisis of public trust becomes important. The public does not owe journalists its trust. Journalism must end it. Through accuracy and verification, fairness, courage, and the willingness to correct mistakes. The discipline to distinguish evidence from allegation, the determination to investigate the powerful, and the patience to listen to those who have no access to power are what earns trust. Media trust is not created by a slogan, and it is not created by telling citizens that we, the journalists, are professionals. It is built when journalists refuse to publish an unverified allegation, even though publication would generate enormous attention, and when journalism refuses to become an instrument of political convenience. This brings us to the subject of power. Journalism exists to scrutinize power, but journalism itself operates within the power structure. Who owns the media? Who finances it? Who determines editorial priorities? Who has access to the newsroom? Who can threaten a journalist's career, make advertising disappear, or make a journalist's working environment unbearable? These are not abstract questions. Recent research on Ghana's media environment has identified the interaction between government interest, ownership influence, financial constraints, and editorial independence as significant challenges to the media's vanguard role. One study found substantial perceptions of government influence and reported that the political affiliations of media owners can affect editorial decisions. Other research has similarly examined the relationship between media funding, advertising, editorial autonomy and editorial autonomy in Ghana. We must be watchful, and we must not allow these pressures to compromise the very foundations of journalism in Ghana. Freedom from government censorship is not the same as freedom from pressure. This is why the future of journalism must include a serious conversation about media economics. We cannot continuously demand fearless journalism from journalists while ignoring the conditions under which they work. It is also why the safety of journalists must remain central to this conversation. The right to publish means very little if the person exercising that right can be intimidated, attacked, or brutalized for doing legitimate journalistic work. We must defend journalists, but it is equally important that we defend the public from irresponsible journalism. Press freedom cannot mean freedom from accountability. A journalist's freedom should not be a license to publish whatever is convenient. It should be valued as a responsibility to pursue the truth. That is why we cannot treat ethics as an annual lecture, a code printed in a booklet, or a topic discussed at professional ceremonies. Ethics must be daily discipline of journalism. The real test of ethical journalism comes when a sensational story is available but cannot be verified. When a vulnerable person's dignity conflicts with the desire of dramatic images, or when a newsroom must choose between what would generate clicks and what citizens genuinely need to know. These are the moments in which journalism defines itself. You know, comrades, today, in many of our newsrooms and in many circles, we deal with the employment of journalism. We are constantly butchering standards. Because I know some television stations, you don't get employed as a presenter if you don't have a certain number of followers on Facebook. This is a complete affront to all of our standards. And those media houses that do that should bow their heads in shame. They are contributing significantly to undermining our credibility. Another question we must confront at this anniversary is, whose Ghana does Ghanaian journalism show? Whose Ghana? On our major news bulletins, we often encounter state officials, corporate executives, and institutional authorities. They are important, They hold power and make decisions that affect the country. However, the farmer deciding whether farming can still sustain a family, the market woman confronting rising costs, the fisherman trying to preserve a livelihood, the teacher working in difficult conditions, the nurse working on another shift, the young person looking for employment, and entire communities must not appear in national news only when disaster strikes. These people are not merely background scenario to the national story. They hold the country in place. This is why I believe journalism must recover something fundamental, the responsibility to listen and not only the ability to speak. We need to be concerned about what is happening to the citizens who have no press conferences at all. What is happening in communities and to the worker whose experiences are often reduced to an economic statistic. If journalism is serious about telling the people's story, it must go where the people are. For too long, the question of who tells Africa's story has been treated as a secondary cultural matter. It is not. Narrative is power, and those who define the story often shape how a society understands itself. A Ghanaian journalism worthy of its history must therefore be confident enough to tell Ghana's story from Ghana's own realities, not simply reproduce narratives about Ghana produced elsewhere. That does not mean isolation. In practice, it means engaging the world without surrendering the authority to interpret our experience to others. Now to digital transformation. We are now entering a media environment fundamentally different from the one in which many of us were trained. A journalist can publish instantly. A radio program can reach an audience across the world. A video recorded on a mobile phone can become national news within minutes. Data that once required weeks of research can now be analyzed rapidly, and audiences can interact directly with journalists. These are extraordinary opportunities, and we should embrace technology as a tool to expedite our work. But we should not lose sight of the fact that these platforms are not neutral. Algorithms determine visibility, and digital systems reward attention, which is often attracted by controversy, outrage, and sensationalism. The journalist's task, however, is not simply to maximize attention, but to determine what the public needs to know. That distinction is crucial. The internet rewards speech. Journalism requires judgment. A journalist can be first and still be wrong. A journalist can be last and still have produced the most important story of the day. Speed is not necessarily desirable. The question, therefore, is not whether journalism can move at a digital speed. The question is whether journalism can move at a digital speed without abandoning the discipline that makes it journalism. This is where the conversation on artificial intelligence becomes crucial. Much of the discussion about artificial intelligence in journalism asks whether artificial intelligence will replace journalists. I think the question should rather be, what remains uniquely valuable about journalism when machines can produce information faster and more cheaply than human beings? AI can help journalists transcribe interviews, process large volumes of information, assist with translation, research, and data analysis, and help newsrooms perform tasks that previously consumed enormous amounts of time. These possibilities should be explored, but artificial intelligence does not remove the journalist's fundamental responsibility. A machine can generate a paragraph, but it cannot take moral responsibility for the consequences of publishing that paragraph. A machine can identify a pattern, but it cannot decide whether that pattern deserves investigation in the public interest. A machine can reproduce information, but it cannot replace the courage required to confront power. A machine can make untrue information move faster, which is exactly why the more powerful the technology becomes, the more stringent professional judgment must become. The future of journalism is not simply knowing how to use AI, but knowing how to question AI, to verify AI, to challenge artificial intelligence, and to take responsibility for what artificial intelligence produces. Technology must remain only a tool. It must never become the ultimate editor. This brings us back to the central issue, purpose. If journalism becomes merely a content industry, it will be judged by volume. If it becomes merely an advertising industry, it will be judged by revenue. And if it becomes merely a digital attention machine, it will be judged by clicks. Journalism is supposed to serve a larger political purpose. It is supposed to help society to know itself, expose abuses of power, and provide citizens with the information they need for transformation. It is supposed to investigate what powerful institutions would prefer to remain hidden. Give society a space in which competing ideas can confront one another and ensure that citizens have a place in the national conversation. This is why the future of journalism cannot be discussed without discussing national development. A democratic society requires informed citizens, and a citizen must be able to ask questions and obtain information. Ghana's Right to Information Act 2019 gives legal expression to this principle, providing for access to information held by public institutions and seeking to foster transparency and accountability in public affairs. But laws alone do not create accountability. Information must be sought, documents examined, questions asked, claims tested, and stories told. This is where journalism becomes a public institution rather than simply an occupation. So what should the next era of the Ghana Journalists Association look like? I believe it must become even more indispensable to the future of journalism. First, it must continue to defend journalists, not only when a journalist is attacked publicly, but by strengthening professional solidarity, legal support, safety training, and the institutional mechanisms that allow journalists to work without intimidation. Second, the Ghana Journalists Association must help rebuild public trust by demanding the highest professional standards from journalists. It must defend journalists' right to report, but must also demand accountability from journalists. Third, the Ghana Journalists Association must prepare journalists for technological transformation. Training cannot simply teach journalists how to operate new software. It must teach them how technology changes power, how algorithms influence visibility, how artificial intelligence can produce synthetic information, how deepfakes can manipulate public understanding, how digital platforms can affect media economics, and how journalists can use technology without surrendering professional judgment to machines. Fourth, the Ghana Journalists Association must help journalism reconnect with society. A healthy media system cannot consist almost entirely of conversations among political elites. The citizens, farmers, traders, fishermen, teachers, nurses must see themselves in the country's journalism, not as props or mere victims, but as people whose knowledge and experience matter in the building of a better Ghana. There is a responsibility here that belongs not only to journalists. Government and all political players must understand that a free press is not an inconvenience to democracy, but one of its safeguards. Media owners must understand that a sustainable media institution cannot be built by destroying the credibility that gives it value. Journalists must understand that freedom without ethics can destroy trust upon which journalism depends. Citizens must understand that a healthy media requires citizens who value truth more than rumors. After 77 years, therefore, the question before the Ghana Journalists Association is not simply how to preserve the institution. It is how to renew its purpose. Ghanaian journalism has survived colonialism, imperialist interventions, and draconian laws. It has survived political transitions and the decline of the newspaper's monopoly. It is now confronting the platform economy, social media, misinformation, artificial intelligence, and a rapidly changing media business. Journalism will surely survive. The question is, what kind of journalism will survive? Will it be journalism reduced to a content factory, driven by clicks and ratings, so commercially dependent that difficult truths become too expensive to tell? Or will it remain independent, ethical, investigative, and connected to the society it serves? That is the choice before us. And it is why this anniversary, 77th anniversary of the Ghana Journalists Association, matters. It is where we decide what part of this history deserves to be carried forward. The courage to challenge power, the professionalism that earns credibility, the defense of press freedom, the commitment to democratic accountability, even as the tools, the economics, the audience, and the threats keep changing around us. What must never change is the commitment to truth, to independence, to the public interest, and to the dignity of citizens. When future generations look back at journalism of our time, they would not judge us by how many platforms we mastered or how quickly we learned to use artificial intelligence. They will judge us by what we did with the freedom, technology, and responsibility that was placed in our hands. Whether we defended truth when falsehood was easier, whether we defended freedom when intimidation was safer, whether we investigated power when silence was more comfortable, whether we listened to citizens who had no powerful voices behind them, and whether, at a moment when technology made it possible to speak to everyone, we remembered that journalism's first responsibility is to listen. So at 77, The future of journalism is waiting to be discovered. It is being decided now in every story we choose to tell, every truth we seek to verify, every abuse of power we choose to expose, and the voices we choose to amplify. At 77, the task before Ghanaian journalism is not simply to preserve its legacy, it is to make the legacy worthy of the future. I thank you for tolerating me, and happy birthday to the Ghana Journalists Association. Thank you very much.
That was some speech. That was some speech. Massa. The clap should be louder. And guess what? The GJA is 77. Only 5 years older than Comrade Kwesi Pratt. Only 5 years. 4 rather. So what a choice the GJA made. A phenomenal choice. And thank you very much, Comrade Kwesi Pratt. My favorite part was about the salaries. We're going to go for a break very soon, a coffee break. But before we go, I will just get into one of our panel discussions because it's important that we hear perspectives. And the first panel discussion, as you can see from your lineup, is about advancing ethical journalism, media credibility, and public trust in a changing digital media ecosystem, GJA legacy, and Ghana's journey with press freedom. And that conversation will be led by a man I enjoy watching and listening to, one of Ghana's most distinguished journalists and broadcasters, a respected lawyer, and a formidable voice in public discourse. Please help me welcome, would you get up? You know I'm talking about you. Samson Ladi Ayinini. With a round of applause, please welcome him.